Two speakers, and then we're going to be taking this energy out onto the streets. There will be some of the marshals with buckets coming around. We know that most of you here don't have a lot of money, but if you do have any, you could donate. It does cost money to put on events like this, and it would be great to be able to come out of this with money we can use for the next event. Our next speaker is going to be Clarke, who is the president of the Sudbury District Labour Council, who will be speaking to us about the labour movement and its response to the Drummond Report.
Thank you very much, Gary. Thanks everybody for turning out on this less than perfect day for sure. At least it's not raining. It's really nice to see such a strong turnout here. I want to let you know how important the labour movement in our community feels that the action that the anti-poverty groups in our community is taking, because we understand that when they come for the poor people, the next people that they're going to come for is the labour movement. And we are under attack in this community all of the time. We have seen good-paying jobs disappear from this community over the past number of years, and we will continue to see good-paying jobs disappear from this community if we don't stand up to the governments that are making the changes that are affecting the economy of our community. The government has come in here and they have basically stripped the labour movement of our rights to organize effectively in our community, and that has meant that less people have the benefit of a good union job in our community because they cannot organize effectively. We do not have things like card check certification, where if 60% of the people or 55% of the people in a workplace sign a union card, they can be organized. In this regime, under this present Liberal government, they have to go to a vote, and that vote is open to manipulation by the employer to ensure that places will not be organized. In Sudbury, a group of young people tried to organize Silver City Cinemas, and they were crushed by that employer. Imagine a group of 15 to 20 young people say, I want to organize in this workplace, and they're fighting an employer like Silver City that's $1 billion corporation that can bring lawyers in and crush that attempt at unionization without any opportunity for those people to fight back effectively. That's what the labour laws are doing to this community. That's what the labour laws are doing to the jobs in this community. The jobs that young people hope to get in this community are disappearing, and they're getting worse and worse and worse. We're losing pensions, we're losing benefits, and the wages are being crushed by this labour law provisions of this particular government. The government is a Liberal government. They call themselves a government for working people. They are not. This government has kept the same provisions of the Harris Tories in place. And we should understand that they have made no changes from those provisions that were designed by employers to benefit employers and not benefit working people. And the working people have to get together and ensure that we put in changes that will help us, changes like anti-scab legislation, changes like first contract arbitration, changes like a decent arbitration system where workers will be protected in the workplace. Because if we don't, this slide will continue, and we will continue to lose good jobs in our community. I wanted to tell you what the labour movement is doing about this austerity agenda, and we really appreciate that the Sudbury Coalition of Poverty has gotten together and brought this group together. On April 21st in Toronto, there will be a mass demonstration led by the Ontario Federation of Labour against the cuts. We're well aware in the labour movement that these cuts are going to affect the poorest people in our community. They're also going to affect workers throughout our communities. So on April 21st, there's going to be an Ontario Day of Action demanding prosperity, not austerity, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. in Queen's Park in Toronto. The Sudbury District Labour Council, along with the North Bay and District Labour Council, will be running a bus to this. If you're interested, we have flyers here with the information. We're looking for, hopefully we'll get about 35 people from Sudbury on the bus and fill this up as much as possible, and then go to North Bay and bring some people from North Bay. If there's more interest, we might be able to run more than one bus. But we want to make sure that we have a good representation from Sudbury, so get a flyer. Find out if you've got some time on April 21st. You'd be welcome to get on the bus to Toronto and show this government that you can't cut your way to prosperity. Thank you very much.
Before we march, one of the founders of the Ontario Coalition Against Poverty and an amazing activist is John Clarke.
Thank you very, very much. When we were hearing about the Drummond report, the brother who was speaking referred to the Drummond report as an act of class war. And I would rather agree with that assessment. But what I would also say is that there's nothing worse than a one-sided class war. And we need to make sure that it's a two-sided class war. We need to make sure that the fight back that is launched on our side measures up to the attack that's coming down on us. We need to understand the scale of the attack that is coming down. When we look at what Drummond is proposing, there are indeed a whole range of horrible measures that he is advocating. For people on social assistance, there's the possibility of consolidating ODSP and Ontario Works. There's all kinds of horrible measures. But what is particularly striking about what Drummond is proposing is the scale of the austerity that he is talking about. The International Monetary Fund a couple of years ago suggested that there should be 20 years of austerity on this planet. And Drummond's report, the authentic voice of Bay Street today, is calling for exactly the same kind of approach. At his worst, during his first term of office, Harris cut the provincial budget by a bit less than 4%. Drummond is proposing a cut of some 17% to be maintained over a 15-year period. The scale of the austerity that is coming down now is not like something we've seen before. This is not like the common sense revolution. This is an international wave of austerity that, if it is successful, will completely change the face of our societies. Will create societies where poverty is rampant, where workers have no rights, where unions have been decimated. Those are the stakes that we are facing. And when it comes to the poor, those people who have been forced onto social assistance, we're talking about people's very ability to survive being compromised. Today, people, to go back to where they would have been in 1994 in terms of the spending power of their social assistance, would need a 60% increase. A person who is surviving, or barely surviving, on $599 a month maximum on Ontario Works, a single person, would be receiving $938 a month if social assistance had been adjusted to inflation since 1994. And in that situation, they are now talking about imposing further measures of austerity on people. They are talking about creating a society, the ugliness and the injustice of which we can't even begin to imagine. Which brings me back to the question of class war. We're very lucky to be gathered here today in Sudbury with the newly reconstituted Sudbury Coalition Against Poverty preparing to take the march onto the streets, to take the fight onto the streets. But remember, it happens the same day that Air Canada workers have walked off the job in defiance of an employer that has victimised them, and in defiance of a government that has victimised them. I saw today that there was going to be a rally in support of those workers, and it was going to leave from the picket lines of the striking library workers in Toronto. So it is all beginning to come together. The possibilities for resistance are there. But we have to build the kind of movement that is up to the job. We have to build the kind of movement that is equal to the struggle that we're facing. It is no good believing that we can defeat this austerity agenda by putting forward a polite message of indignation, of putting forward moral pressure. We have to build a movement that is powerful enough and disruptive enough and threatening enough to them that it can drive back their agenda and defeat them. People on social assistance are living on incomes, yes, that are grossly inadequate. But we might ask the question, why did they provide any social assistance to people in the first place? Why is there any provision for people's needs? Because they recognised early in their history that if you just abandon people to complete destitution, the level of social unrest that would be created would actually threaten the stability of their system. So therefore, logically I say this, the only way in which the poor can win in today's situation is to precisely deliver social unrest. Precisely to say, we are not going to be passive, we are not going to be silent, we are not going to simply raise a voice of protest, but we are going to be in your faces. We are going to take to the streets. We are going to organise in ways that hurt you at the cash registers. That actually we are going to build a movement in this province that is strong enough that it can create a situation where either austerity is shelved or the province becomes ungovernable. That's the scale of what we have to build. So I think it's time that we took to the streets of Sudbury. And I think as we do that, we have to say that we are committed, not just to today's march, but we are committed to building in this community and communities throughout the province the kind of fighting movement that can fight to win, that can defeat austerity and can stop their agenda as it needs to be defeated. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. We're going to be forming up over here to go